Hi. Hi, Brynne.
Hi,
So,
Keisha.
hi, I am KDH Counseling, and I have this podcast that I felt called to do. It's called Leaning Into Therapy. And so it's about all things therapy. So on the podcast, video, however we decide to put the information out there, I'm going to interview therapists so they can talk about how they see therapy. They can tell us what they're really into. And I'm hoping that this will provide more education for people so that they understand and can be more intentional about the therapeutic process, right? Because the more intentional we are, the better outcomes we have. Just like if you just went work out randomly and you didn't have a plan, you probably wouldn't have good outcomes. But if you got a plan, you would have better outcomes. And if you knew what you were working towards, you would have better outcomes. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. So I'm Keisha Holmes, and I'm a licensed therapist, and this is Brynne Angelle. And Brynne, what's your credentials? What are you?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a perinatal mental health specialist.
Okay, yeah, you are into a lot of things. So I like Brynne because Brynne is direct. She's very skilled, right? You have all these different trainings that I like that are behaviorally driven. You have other things too, but it's just the way you see things, and you're direct, so you're able to funnel people that sometimes I can't. Sometimes there are people that I can't help that you just do such a beautiful job with. So I'm really excited you're here.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. I value the work that you do. We've really worked well with clients together, and so I am very honored to be here with you today.
Oh, I'm so excited. So can you tell them a little bit, I guess, tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Okay. Yeah. So my passion is definitely working with the teen young adult population and their families. When people come to me, they're usually struggling. They've got school problems. They are really struggling with their feelings. They get really big feelings and they don't know what to do with it. And it often comes out in substance use, arguing a lot with their parents, really struggling to make friends or keep friends. And they feel really on the outside. They might have suicidal thoughts. They might have self-injury. They may not even. They may look to the outside observer like they're doing really great.
Mm-hmm.
And internally, they're struggling so bad. And those kids really love being in this office and having a place to really work through what they're going through, move away from some of that perfectionist stuff. Like, I've got to look to everyone to be so perfect to be accepted. But even these kids who everyone on the outside sees, right? They see their stuff. They see the big behaviors. These parents are really worried about their kids. They too have a place here. So whether your kid is outwardly showing a lot of signs of problems, right? Like they're really struggling, or if they look like they've got it all together, but they really don't emotionally, I really help give these kids the skills they need to reach their potential, to find their happiness, and to succeed in friendships, school, family life, improve those family relationships so that as parents, you can feel confident your kid leaving the nest and building their own lives, right?
I love that. Well, it's like the internalizers versus the externalizers.
Yes.
The ones that keep it all in are the ones that are just showing it all. They're still suffering in the same way. And your ultimate goal is to get them self-sufficient for college. I mean, that's what it sounds like. That's the broader.
Absolutely, because my kids are so afraid of adulting, right? That's the word they love to use with me. And they're afraid because what we know about teens that don't get their stuff together, they don't learn how to feel their feelings. And then what do I do with these big feelings that I feel? They end up having really hard, chaotic relationships with people. They feel very alone. They really struggle to achieve what they want to. They struggle in school. They struggle to keep jobs because they struggle in those relationships with their bosses or to complete tasks. My perfectionists tend to achieve so much, but then just feel unsatisfied in life. You know, I think of Taylor Swift said this beautifully because she is one of those over-controlled overachievers. And she talked about this. I reached the top of my pinnacle and I was so severely depressed, trying to just live my life for other people. So I don't want my kid to be so alone and have these chaotic experiences and feel so bad about who they are because of the chaos they create. But I also don't want them to be achieving all these amazing things and not feel satisfied. So how can we help those kids honor how they're feeling, learn how to communicate that with people in an effective way? And then now that I know what I'm feeling, and when I think about it, what am I going to do with that so that I can stay in these beautiful relationships with others? Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to be alone, you know?
I think you do a good job of like, you go back to the bigger picture and then back to the parts. You keep going back to what's the bigger goal, what's the bigger issue here. Even as you're processing this, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I never noticed that about you, but you do a really good job of that, and it probably motivates them.
It does. Teenagers don't come to me with goals, like parents want them to achieve and score, do this stuff, but they have dreams and they have aspirations. And we want to take those dreams and those aspirations and then turn them into goals. So how do I achieve these dreams? How do I not, and give them permission to dream big enough? And then, okay, this is your dream. Now let's turn that into achievable goals over time. So if I had a kid come to me and he wants to be legendary, right? He wants to really make an impact in the world. And I love that. And I was like, okay, well, what do we need to be doing today that will help me get there, right? Because being legendary is overwhelming. Making an impact on people's lives is just completely overwhelming. And so we break that down into small, achievable steps. If I have a kid who's 12 years old and they know they want to go to college and they want to be this veterinarian, right? And that just is so far away that to do the everyday, to not cause big yelling matches with my parents. If I want to achieve that veterinary goal, I really have to bring it back to, how do I relate to people? How do I, if I'm feeling overwhelmed with school, how do I work through that? Because my kid doesn't really care about math necessarily, right? In my office. But if I talk about math in a way of, how do I do this hard thing for me? Right. And then when I go to college or I go to veterinary school, I can remind myself, because I got through math, I can do hard things. So I'm teaching my kids in these everyday hoops and these everyday things that they sort of find boring or mundane or just difficult. How do I relate that to their bigger dreams?
What theory is this? Because I'm like, is this DBT or is this ACT? I don't know.
It's both. So DBT does take into account, DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy, for those of you who don't know, and it does take into account values, which is ACT. That's all about value systems. So I don't think you can do any therapy well without helping people understand what's important to them and who are they, right? And so I think most therapeutic theories take into account what's important to the person. But a teenager, I'm not going, hey, let's work on your value system. That's too big. Okay. But I'm saying, when you're around people, what's important to you? What type of friend do you want? When you think of the it girl or the guy who has it all, what do you see? What characteristics do they have? What are they doing? That sort of thing. And I talk to them that way about values. As adults, we know values, we know principles, we know morals. Kids don't talk that way. And so as parents, when I teach my parents to coach their kids more than being their parent, because as a parent, you've got to help your kid learn how to do these things. Shoot, sometimes we have to help ourselves do these things before we can help our kids do these things, right? So it's, how do I learn these skills and coach my kid through them as well, as so important, because it's really going to be hard for your kid to learn from me the effective things to do and then go home and we're all not being effective with one another. And again, that's not being perfect. It's being willing to honor, I'm not perfect, and try to do the healthier thing. So for instance, I like to use my kids as an example, but if I come home and I'm stressed and I fuss at my kid's gonna know he has a place to say, Mom, you're being kind of fussy today. And I go, ooh, you're right. Mom's been kind of in a mood
Cranky.
today.
Yeah.
And I really don't like that when I have to repeat myself because you're not listening, right? Like you can own your stuff as a parent without it being inappropriate. So I really teach them that, because at the end of the day, I don't want my clients in my office forever. I want to arm the family with the skills to come to me and move out. I think of it a lot like tennis. I don't know if you play tennis.
But it's hitting that ball back and forth. Yeah.
Yes. And if you've never played tennis, you may not know this, but it's like that bounce back theory. So when you first start learning tennis, your coach is going to make you go to this wall and you're going to bounce this ball back and forth, right? And that wall is going to be the most annoying thing and the most beautiful thing for you, because it forces you to react. It forces you to make adjustments in your skill. And sometimes that ball just comes and whacks you back in that face, or, it does this thing where it catches you, but what I always love to tell my kids is you bounce back. No matter what, you're going to bounce back. And how you bounce back is going to be really important, because if you whack it and you overshoot it, that ball is going to smack you in the face, but if you do it oh so skillfully, like you're mindful and you pay attention to how hard I'm hitting it, then when you bounce back from that wall, you're going to have this experience with tennis where you're like, oh, I've got this groove going, right? And then every once in a while you might have a miss hit or whatever, but you now know how to course correct. You know how to shift your hand ever so slightly to change the grip of the racket, so that then you can hit that ball where it needs to be on that wall. Then you translate that into an actual game, and you can bounce that ball back and forth to the other players across the net. You can communicate, if you play doubles, with your partner so that you can play that game effectively. So what you're doing and then how you do that with others really matters. And therapy is that, where you learn with me to do and play tennis, right? You learn how to do that so you can do that well outside of this office.
I think a lot of people don't think of it that way, but therapy is learning.
Yes.
It's 100% what we're trying to do.
In the most non-judgmental way. Like, you get to screw it all up in here, and I'm not judging you for that. From a very helping place, I want to help you through that, because I know it's so painful to be in that hard place. No one says, oh, I really want to be here and this is great, but we do get comfortable in it. I have even really depressed clients who are miserable, who say, like, I don't know, depression's kind of calm, it's kind of easy. I like it. They'll even say, I like it.
Well, and it's what they know. It almost feels like, but if I let it go, who am I going to be? It's like a reference point for who they are. And so, yeah. I mean, teens are, I think, a little more difficult, but it sounds like you do a good job of making the information tangible for them, or like, so they can understand it.
Yes.
So it doesn't seem so clinical.
Yeah. Because I mean, who's going to stick around for that? They get taught at school all day, every day. And so I'm really real with them. Like, look, I'm teaching you something right now, but this is not for you to go home and have a test with. Like, I want you not to have a vocabulary lesson right now. I just want you to understand how these thoughts sound, and really make that more like human friendly. I do not want my kids leaving my office like they oftentimes can from, like, when they come back from the hospitals, saying words like dialectical behavioral therapy, or, hey, Ms. Brynne, I want to cope with life. Okay, that is not how we talk,
Or too much. Yeah, too much TikTok. It could be too much TikTok.
That's true. You're right. Yes, everyone is now gaslighting everyone. Yeah.
Drives me crazy. Well, so how do you conceptualize therapy, just in general? Like, how do you see what we do?
I think, like you said, it's a really good place to learn what you want to do out there. You know, at the end of the day, we can feel lost. My clients can really feel lost in, what do I do with all this stuff? What do I do with the ways that I think and I feel? And will everyone just judge me for the rest of my life? Will I always not fit? And so for me, therapy really is that tennis match. You know, it really is that place where you can come just as you are. You can show up to that wall and you can throw it around and you can be angry as you want about it. Come uncertain, you know, and we're going to bounce back, you know, and I'm going to be here for you so that you can learn through those mistakes, through those misjudgments, and then also be able to recognize where you're not messing it all up, so that you can build on to what you already have inside of you, build those skills that maybe you struggle in, so that you can go out into the world and play tennis. Now, like I said, it's not, you don't have to play tennis, but you can live your life, you know, and the one that you really want, not one that you're just surviving every day.
Well, and so with that idea, what led you to this? Like, why did you get into therapy? Why did you want to become a therapist?
Oh my goodness, I think like all of us do, right? We had our own struggles. You
Mhm.
know, I really had a lot of life. And in a lot of conditions where people could have done something different, I had a lot of resiliency. You know, I was adopted as a kid, substance addiction parents, or parent, you know, and divorced families, you know, a lot of adversity. Lost my mom at 16, and rode the waves of like all the feelings that come through all of those things. And so when my teens come to me with, I mean, the amount of adversity they go through, it's sort of like, I get you, even though I haven't been where you've been, you know, and teenagers are hard. And now they have social media and the availability to say whatever they want at any given time. And that's hard, you know, and I get that for them, even if I didn't experience it. But I know what big feelings and hard times can feel like. And DBT is something I use in my life every day. And in fact, I think if I could go into high schools and teach it as a class. So I want people to know, just because you're in my office learning these skills doesn't mean the rest of the world gets permission not to use them. Some people can use them a little easier than the rest of us, but we all do them. And in fact, people who use the skills I teach people in my office more regularly, they're happier, they feel better, they're physically more healthy, they have relationships where they find joy, you know, and they have that give and take, and overall have a joy-filled life. We're not absolved of pain or hurt just because we're joyful.
Well, yeah, it just teaches us resiliency. I mean, that's basically like more resiliency. But is there a reason? So I know for myself, like I'm very skills based because I had lots of therapy growing up that wasn't based on skills. And so I feel like the outcomes could have been a lot better sooner for me if it had been more intentional.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you are in to DBT? Is there a reason why your therapeutic approach, is what it is?
The same. So I come from a big background clinically in trauma work, specifically sexual assaults. And I found that the more my clients talked to me about what they were going through, the worse they got. And that when I told them how much their story meant to me, right? Like, it really matters what you've been through, but I want you to know you can create something different. And let's talk about the ways you can create something different. They moved way faster through their treatment than they did talking. And a lot of my teens can relate to that. Like, they say, I don't want a trauma dump all day, right? Like, people want to stop talking about their problem because then we just stay focused on the problem. So I got into skills because so many people were coming to me early in my career saying, I've been in therapy for 10 plus years and I haven't gotten anywhere. I've seen 5 different therapists, you know, and I'm so tired of talking, or like, ugh, I don't even know if I want to be with you. And it really moved me to learn this. And anytime I hear that someone has been told they're unhelpable, right? Like, I can't help you. that's painful. And so when I heard about DBT and people with certain personality features that were finally told, you can be helped
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can learn this thing, I was like, oh, sign me up for that. Because I don't believe that anyone is beyond repair. And I believe in the humanity of us as clinicians that, we don't know everything. I know a lot about a lot of things. I know a lot about what I do, and I don't pretend to be the expert in everything. And I think that's really important,
It's
to
so important. Like that might be one of the things, like I get passionate, probably a little angry about it, but I think that our profession has the potential to just help so many people if we stay in our lane with
yes.
what we are good at. Like there's some things I'm so good at, but the longer I'm a therapist, I know the things that I'm not good at, and I refer
Yeah.
for that. It doesn't mean that the client's unhelpable. It just means I am not the one that can bring them across the finish
Yeah.
line.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. So I agree. Yeah. Sending
Mhm.
them to places with the person that is trained. That's why I send certain clients to you, right? Because you're trained in certain things.
Yes. And I always tell my clients, like, what you were in before mattered. Like, some of my kids have to be in traditional psychotherapy where they have a place to land, where they have a safe place to talk to someone else about what they've been through or what they're dealing with without, and just have permission to do that without having to learn anything, and like opening them to, I can trust a stranger with my stuff, and they have to do that work before they can come to me.
Valid. The super
Yeah.
valid. It's like I call it, they need to cook more.
Yeah,
Right?
because you can't just, if you show up to my office, not everybody likes me, because when you show up to my office, you've got to start doing work. You've got to be ready to do this stuff. I am kind and I'm empathetic and I'm going to be with you. I'm going to stand with you there and say, okay, and what? If you got to go in that deep, dark pit, and what? I'm here, and now I'm here. Let's soak in it for a while. And some people need to soak for a while. And I honor that. If you need someone to process your stuff with, okay, you need to do that.
Mhm.
I'm not that clinician, and I'm okay with that. You come to me, and if you're struggling in school and you're struggling to make friends and you're struggling because you don't like yourself, you say, I'm not good enough, and I can't do these things, or people don't like me and I have to do things perfectly. Come in my office and I'm going to teach you the skills to work through those things. I'm going to help your family and your parents walk you through those things, or I'm going to refer you to family therapy to work through those things while you do this work with me. And I think that's so important, is to, as a human being, and you're looking for a therapist, I want you to know what you're getting into. Ask the questions. Don't be, we work for you. So ask the questions. What type of therapy am I getting into when I'm saying, okay, I want to see Miss Brynne for therapy? What are we going to do? And I love that about teens, because they ask me that question. They're like, how are you going to be different than the last person? Or I had a teen go, are you going to make me color? And I love my art therapist. I do not do that.
Right.
But sometimes they say, do you color? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, I really need someone who will do
Yeah.
this art with me. Great. I know a fabulous woman that can help you with that. And I think if we can do that with each other, and if people understand that they deserve to get the care they need, it's important.
Well, yes. And that goes back to this whole podcast series. Like if they
Yeah.
know, if they're more
Yes.
intentional and they understand what therapy is really about, and if they can be more assertive in the therapeutic process, ask us questions. I mean, because it sometimes takes a team, and sometimes it takes a referral to someone else. And then when they're ready, they come back to us. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is
No.
like, I think a good therapist, we see this stuff and we're able to track it. You know what I mean? Attune to them and kind of figure it out, and then send them where they need to be if it's not us. And that's not a bad thing. I think
No.
that's one of the things I love about having a good referral. I mean, it's a beautiful thing about therapy, right? Sending someone to a place where they get help and know that there's nothing wrong with them, that they can survive, that they can make it through this, that they have the potential to reach
Yes.
their goals. I mean, I don't know. It's like I can get passionate there. Super beautiful experience.
Yes. And I love giving people the independence to make their own choices, giving people agency, to do what they need to do for themselves. When my teens come to me and they say, I was mad at you for an entire week, I love when they do that. Or if they say, like, I really sat on what we talked about and I learned a lot this week. Or, I had a teen and she was like, I think I'm good. I think I'm done with therapy. I'm like, okay, let's chat about where you're at and what you're doing. And I think that sounds great when we've gotten there, that it at least opens the conversation of where we can go and give people that sense of choice again. But what a beautiful gift if you and I, as clinicians, can get our clients to a place to where they feel good about the choices they're making. It's wise mind thinking, and so, yeah, I love what I do. I stand behind giving our families and especially these kids the tools they need to become the adults that they want to be and the kid they want to be now. No, they don't have to wait till adulthood, but give you those skills so that you can do those things. And I love what you're doing, Keisha, working with all of us in this community so that people can know how we can serve them and help them to get to where they want to be. I love that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm very passionate about it. I guess I'm hoping that the more people know good information, not TikTok. I mean, I'm not saying TikTok's bad, but you just don't know what you're getting.
Right.
So from people who are licensed and experienced and in their lane, right? In our expert lane, whatever that is, like, I feel like that is going to be the biggest gift for humans, and then even if they don't live in our community, this information is pretty universal across our country,
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. And I've had kids, if they work with me at teens and then they go off to college in all the different places around the world, it's been wonderful to talk with them about this is what we do. And this is the type of provider you want to be looking for to help you continue to grow. And I love when they ask me those questions, and I love when they're willing to find someone that they need to see. Like in New York, I recently had someone move to New York and I was like, okay. And they're like, who do I need to be looking for? What do I need to be finding? And we really coached her through the questions to be asking these people, to know it's a partnership. When you sign up with us, it's a partnership. Yes, I know a lot of the things you want to learn, but you know a lot about you and you have to know, and trust me for me to do the work with you. And we honor that may take a minute, but giving people that right to choose who their providers are is to me so important, but to give them permission to ask. Because oftentimes when we go see an expert, we sort of cowered into asking questions. And especially my population, that are depressed or anxious, they worry about how that's going to look, or they just blindly trust people. And so I want you to ask those right questions for yourself. Sure.
I like that. It's like taking ownership. I love the idea of owning yourself, owning your depression, your whatever it is, right? And so that is a form of ownership for themselves, for their mental health.
Yeah.
Very powerful for teens. I mean, if they could learn that early on.
Yes.
Geez. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find though, my kids that own it and they know what they're getting into, and we make those goals and we move through them and I hold them accountable. Those are my kids who soar, and it sometimes takes a minute. If we're in a lot of cases, it takes a minute. But they really do. And they achieve these things little by little, and that's uplifting, so being smart about the goals that you're setting, is important. But really, I think families at the end of the day want to know that what I'm spending my money on and getting the help that I need, that I'm going to get out of what I want, what I'm looking for, and for most of my clients, they want to have a reason to keep staying here. They want to build a life that's worth being here for, creating a community that's worth being here for. And we really want to give them that. I think that's my passion point wholeheartedly. Watching people in my own life lose their lives to suicide, I think that's the hardest thing ever. And so if you can make an impact in one life, I think that's huge. And if I am a parent of 4, And if I'm looking to go get my kid help, you better believe I'm going to ask all the questions of that person of like, where are we going? How can we help? And I'm going to meet with them again. And what can I do to help my kid? I think that's so important. Don't be afraid as the parent to like know that we're not perfect and we can change and adapt. This is not a judgmental place. I'm not going, you're bad.
No,
Parent, but
parenting is difficult. It is such
yeah.
you do the same thing with two kids and you'll have two different outcomes. I mean, I say that a lot to my adults, it's a really tough job. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's a good point to tell them we are not judging them by any means. Yeah.
So be encouraged, at least in this office, and I know in Keisha's because I've had the privilege to work with you, but I know in this office, be encouraged that if you come here, have those conversations with me. Let's really talk about what skills your kid is going to be learning, what they're going to be doing with me, what the expectations are, and how we're going to move through any challenges through that. And then as parents, how I'm going to support you in getting that. And whether or not you show up to that really matters. I can give you all the tools, but if you don't show up to them, you're going to get out of it what you put in.
That's
Yeah.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you have any closing points?
No, I mean, honestly, I believe in my kids. I believe in my family. I call my clients my kids. But, I believe in my families and helping them get these skills. I was in sports all my life, so coaches were like that guiding force to me, and as a licensed clinical social worker, I do want to coach you through how to support your kid through the skills that I have. And I want your kid to have a place to land. I say a soft place to land, but me, you've worked with me long enough. I'm direct and I'm not gonna I don't have time to softly put that in, but I am kind.
Yeah.
I will kindly direct you or say no, you can't do that.
Mhm.
Or is that really working out for you? And so I really want you guys to know that if you're coming to me, if your family's coming to me to help your teen build the life that they want, to be able to have healthy friendships, to be able to love who they are, to be able to achieve the things they want to achieve and move through all those things and to stop harming themselves or doing things they're not proud of, then know that you're going to come and we're going to have a plan to get through that. And I may not be your only stop.
Mhm.
That if your kid has significant circumstances they've been through in their life, they may need to see like Keisha to work through that with like EMDR and trauma stuff.
Mhm.
They may get to a place where they need some other types of therapies, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they have failed therapy. You're doing the work. You will gain some really beautiful skills in this office that you can keep for the rest of your life, and I'm going to give you those. And if you keep your folder like I tell you to with all your skills in it, you have that for the rest of your life. And like I said, I use them every day. Adults use them every day. So your kid and you will be armed with the tools you need to keep your life going in the direction that you want it to go. No matter what circumstances hit your life, you'll be able to ask for the help that you need through those circumstances. You'll be able to tolerate how you're feeling through those things. You'll be able to work with how you're thinking through those things and get all that help that you need. And I think that's a beautiful gift.
Well, and I think one of the things I really like is that how you include the family in it. I think it's such an important piece. Not that therapists alienate the families, but sometimes they do, and it's the way that we're trained, right? Because it's confidential, and so people interpret that in so many ways. But the kid goes home with their family; they don't go home with me, and so I feel like including the family can just have so much more therapeutic. I don't even know. It can be so much more healing for the teen. So
Absolutely.
I really like
At
that.
the end of the day, I learned a beautiful thing from the Uvalde shooting kids that survived. And I were asked, what's one thing you wish adults in your life knew? And they said, I wish people would just listen to me.
Oh,
And there's a difference between actively listening and not really listening. But therapy is a place for us to listen to you and to support you. And I have yet to have a kid who says, I don't want my family in my life.
It's true.
When they get to that place, they've been so hurt, and out of fear and out of just sheer numbness, they're like, no. But in the heart of all my kids, and I worked with some kids in some pretty harsh home environments, they want to be loved by the people they love, and they want to be heard. And
Mhm.
so when your kid is having these big feelings, we want to learn how to hear them and also be consistent as parents. And you
Mhm.
get that in this office. You get, how do I help my kid feel these big feelings, do these things I'm not proud of, but also hear them while asking for change.
I mean, those are some high level skills. I think the
Mhm.
idea of having support, it's such a powerful thing, right? To know you're
Absolutely.
not alone as a parent and that this might be overwhelming, but I have someone that's supporting me and that's kind of helping me through this. So I'm not just kind of like, oh, let me try this. No, 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 let me try this, right? I know what's going to work and what's going to be the best way through this. I mean, that's that beauty. The support piece is like, I don't know, super important. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's scary. It is scary as a parent to feel like I can't help my kid. And I love to tell my parents, you can, and let's figure out how you can do that.
Mhm.
Because they oftentimes feel so beaten down, and so do the kids. Like, everybody in that family feels just so exhausted. Um, and to give you permission to still have hope through this is really important, and you've got to take care of yourself. So, I do think your family can rise up, and I want to give you tools to support you in that journey for sure. Yeah.
I love that. Well, this was awesome, Brynne. I
Thank-
really enjoyed this. I really,
Yeah.
really did. I didn't realize like some of our history's the same.
Mhm.
Not the adopted piece. I didn't know that about you, but just some of that. My dad was an alcoholic. And so I
Uh-huh.
was raised in that type of environment. So I know, and then some of the ways that you think about therapy. I mean, I knew a lot of how you did it, but I don't think I understood like how much you went into meaning and how much you were like really motivating them through these broader goals. And I just think that's beautiful. It's a
Thank you.
beautiful part of our job. Yeah, I love this. So thank you for being here today. And
Thank you for having me.
you want to say anything else? Any last closing thoughts?
No, I think I could honestly sit here for days on end talking about this because it really means so much to me. But no, I think my families can really, the families that I've worked with really know that it's important to me, to help you guys through what you're going through. And I always welcome feedback. And so I think, being sure that if you are working with a clinician, that you're getting the help that you need. If you feel like you need to say something or work through something, that you do that and get the respect there. But no, if at the end of the day, my families know that I rally with you, and I really want to give you everything. And I'm in the works of trying to put a lot more things together for our communities and the parents out there. I know they can't all come to my office, and that's the beautiful thing about virtual life is some of my parents who they work offshore, or they work around the community. They've been able to do some of these parent, I call them touch points or sessions, virtually, and that's been helpful, for them as well to get what they need.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, and I'm going to attach your website information
Yeah.
on the video so y'all can contact Brynne because we don't work in the same office. We just refer to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can contact her if you have any questions. Thanks
Thank
again.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.